Hi, I'm Anthony Pyatt, and you're watching The Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I am happy to be joined by Anthony Pyatt. How's it going?
It's good. Life's good. How are you, Chloe?
I'm good, thank you for asking. And I'm so excited that we're finally sitting down to chat about Descendants, The Rise of Red, kind of getting into the film and your role as Hades. But to start off, what can you share about your background in the arts and what sparked that passion in you to pursue this as a career?
Oh, ooh, how do we make that a short story? Let's see. Well, as far as I know, until proved otherwise, I come from a family related to Marilyn Monroe on my mom's side. And on my dad's side, he had a love for movies and he was a big Tom Hanks fan. So my family was very passionate and they were storytellers. And some of our best connection came through sitting down to watch TV and movies and have movie nights and connect with the characters' feelings and stuff. So that was a spark that connected me to life since I was very young. And I've been sort of chasing it ever since. I had a bunch of career choices younger on. I wanted to be a race car driver. I wanted to be in the military. And then one night I watched Billy Elliot with my mom, and the whole, the crux of that plot was like they're like, be a guy and you could be a boxer, and he's like, I want to dance, and I was like, hey, yeah, I do want to dance. And I called my dad up and I was like, hey, I think I want to quit the Boy Scouts and I want to get into tap dancing. And my dad was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And he went, great. If that's what you want to do, let's do it. And it blossomed from there, kind of in the way a lot of theater kids go through it. There was piano class and there was chorus in school, and then that leads to theater, and theater really bites like a bug, and then it's off to the races.
So you mentioned Billy Elliot, that's the one with Jamie Bell, right? In that
Right.
lead
Yeah.
role, fantastic movie. And it must have meant the world to have the support of your parents and your family in this journey for you.
That's right. Yeah. I came from a low income family, so it was all moral support. But sometimes that's all it takes. If all it takes is at least one person in your life to say yes, you can, and what you want is important, and then it's all in your hands from there.
I love something that you've said in the past about you enjoy seeking genuine connection with other actors and with audiences. And I feel like that's such a great motivation to have in acting and in your path as an artist. And you mentioned the theater background. So how did you find a home on the stage and in this theater community?
Well, in high school, I was very lucky with the high school I went to. It was a public school. And in my district of thespians in Central Florida, you had different kinds of theater programs depending on what high school you went to. Some schools, they did like 1 to 3 big shows a year, and there was a lot of pressure and all the budget went into it. My school was more trial and error based. Like we would do like 10 to 12 productions a year. And so I always knew that was a gift because, high school theater is never going to be perfect, right? Like it's your first time just getting to practice it and make choices and make mistakes and be messy. And we got to do that over and over and over again. And so there were many little learning opportunities. There were wins and losses. And I just loved it so much. So I I auditioned for like 2 theater schools, and I ended up going to Circle in the Square Professional Theater Workshop in New York City, on 50th and Broadway, where it was right next to Wicked. Um, and you're going to see a lot of Disney weaving in and out of my life, all of my life, sort of winking and whispering at me until Descendants finally happened. Um, the first musical I ever auditioned for was a Disney musical, and High School Musical had come out on Disney Channel like the night before, and the next day, like I already knew all the words and was singing one of Troy Bolton's songs, and then when I went to audition for Circle in the Square in New York. Godspell was on at the time, and Hunter Parrish was replaced by Corbin Blue. So I was like walking past Corbin Blue's costume on the rack backstage on a Broadway theater to audition for my first theater school. It was a very cool experience. Um, so I attended Circle in the Square for 1 out of 2 years, and after the first year, I decided to go get more like on the job experience by just going into the industry. Sort of a bold choice, but it worked for me. Um, and I got to do some near off Broadway misses. I got to do a little bit of off Broadway work, and then I shot my first indie feature film with a good friend of mine, and that really took its hold. Like I loved theater, and the first time I stepped on set, I was like, oh, this is where I belong. So I started training for TV and film, and it's been going onward and upward from there.
What do you feel when you're on stage? Like, what do you love about this form of performing?
Hmm. On stage, I love the genuine connection. And I've been reflecting on that even more as my TV and film career is starting to take off. Um, depending on the individual circumstance of that's Shambles, by the way. Shambles the house cat. Hi, Shambles. She doesn't care.
She did hear you, definitely. She looked right at you.
Shamble Shanks for long, Shambles for short. She's a sweet girl. Let's see. What do I love about theater? Something I'm discovering as my TV and film career is taking off is depending on the needs of the scene, actors can sort of take their turns connecting or going in and out of whatever emotion they need to feel. And sometimes you're acting to nobody, and sometimes you're acting to a machine, a camera. Um, and always with TV and film, it's bits and chunks and pieces, and there are a lot of wonderful gifts from that I love. But in theater, you are really walking the journey with your character the entire time. You're really experiencing the other characters' emotions and needs in real time. Um, and that is something I crave on and off stage. I love that genuine human connection.
The circle in the square, that was kind of like some theater training that you did. What other professional training do you have, like in film and TV? Do you have anything in that specific industry?
So, Circle in the Square was a lot of different methodologies. That was sort of the beautiful and surprising element of that education is that it's not necessarily all cohesive, and that's the point, is you learn a bunch of different tools and then you decide for yourself like, oh, this really works for me, and like I'm not sure that works for me, but I'm going to try it. And then jumping into TV film, it was somewhat the same. So if Circle in the Square was heavily like Stanislavski based, I trained in Orlando with a wonderful studio called Class Act Studio, and they train Meisner first. So there was Meisner, and there was camera technique and script analysis. So Class Act Studios in Central Florida really taught me a lot about the business in front of and behind the camera, and I'm grateful to them for that. Most everything else, I would argue, is like on-set experience. Like there's only so much you can learn in the classroom before you get out there and learn by doing.
Definitely. And I'm curious about a couple of your past jobs, your past work. Tell me about your time as part of Jimmy Fallon's The Ragtime Gals. How did this opportunity come about, and how was that group to perform with?
Oh, growing up in Orlando, Florida, I've been very lucky to find my way through a lot of different fun characters and shows with the theme parks here in Central Florida. They really feed us actors. Um, Ragtime Gals, I'm so glad you asked, was definitely one of my most fun jobs. For anyone who doesn't know, the premise of the show is it's modern pop songs in the style of barbershop music, and it's a five-part harmony show. I've always loved part singing, like I mentioned earlier. I started in chorus before I got into theater, and so I'm definitely one of those stereotypical singers that loves to jump on the harmony when somebody else is singing or when a song's playing on Spotify. And so it's fun. I was very lucky to get to go to work and be with my friends and put on a fun costume and sing really fun songs. And I was particularly lucky one day during the writer strike, early on in the writer strike, where Mr. Fallon, Mr. Jimmy, came and visited us on a day I happened to be working. And that was a frenzy. That was a fun surprise. Um, and he came on stage with us and he was very kind with us. And I got to improv with him a little bit. He wore my hat, which is cool. Um, yeah, we did an improv bit where I gave him like an imaginary baby and he threw it. And so the joke is that he's a 10 out of 10 improver and a 2 out of 10 babysitter. And if I ever work with him or talk with him, I'll tell him that. I'm sure he'd get a kick out of it.
Being in chorus, you were part of a frog choir. You worked at Universal Orlando. So how was that gig and what other kinds of roles did you take on at the theme park?
Oh gosh. Frog choir. Wow, you really do your research. You know what's so cool about that is that, like a lot of people, the world of Harry Potter meant a lot to me growing up, and getting to be a part of that was really cool. And stays with me in that everything I'm doing in my career is geared towards an ultimate dream role, which is I would love to be in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in any of their productions, whether it's a sit down production in Los Angeles or the tour or the Broadway show. I would love West End, but I'm sure they're casting genuine Brits over there. But I saw Harry Potter and the Cursed Child 2 years ago in San Francisco, and I fell in love. I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. Everything I've been doing, I feel like has led up to this. I have a passion for dialect work. Um, all of the times growing up in Orlando, working in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, like all the things I've learned about wand choreography and the lore of the world, and I was like, oh, I have all the tools. I feel right for the job. I want that. So here's me manifesting it out into the world that everything I'm doing is marching towards that. And should it happen, they can come to this interview among a couple others and see that I've been saying it this whole time. This whole time. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Frog Choir was invaluable learning experience. Like you were saying earlier, with every role that you do, you learn something and take it with you. And with that, it was I became a much stronger vocal percussionist. I was a beatboxer for hire for a while. Um, and I still do occasionally, just less, as TV films taking off, there's less time for it. It taught me other trade secrets that I don't want to reveal, but it was a wonderful time, and I made some good lifelong friends along the way.
It's definitely a kind of job where you always have to be at the top of your game because it's very like guest facing, right? So you're always having to be theatrical, you're always having to be interactive, and you also was Poseidon's Fury some kind of ride that you were also kind of doing a part with?
Yeah, may it rest in peace. Poseidon's Fury was closed, and it was a wonderful show that served a lot of people for a long time. It was my very first job in the theme park world. Poseidon's Fury was an immersive show. It was a three-room structured show, sort of a little Indiana Jones vibes, where people get welcomed into an old temple and then they get trapped, and you, as the nerdy, geeky college intern on the archaeological dig, have to sort of step into the hero position along with everyone else, and navigate their way through and try to find a way out and find the professor. Um, there are a lot of people out there that will really appreciate that you brought that up and honored that, because a lot of people do miss it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, especially you being a part of it and now knowing that it no longer exists, it's like it almost holds a bit more of a special place knowing that you were a part of like its legacy. And earlier this year, you guest starred in an episode of Will Trent. Tell me about your time on set of the police procedural and what you took away from that guest role.
Will Trent was to date one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. Um, Everything about that experience was enriching. and just so cool. Um, you know, every actor, wants to get booked and dreams of getting to flex their actor chops and connect with other actors. And I will tell you my three favorite things about my experience on that set. And it's that because of the pace in which the job has to be done, it's a show, and a lot of pieces have to move relatively quickly to put it together to get it out on time, and that requires everyone to be exemplary at their job, and they were. It was so cool to watch like a really solid functioning set. And all the little tools that it takes for it to function, like hyper knowledge in their specific expertise, and solid communication, and set structure, and leadership structure, all those things. That was one. Two was that I would assume that because given the nature of a police procedural, they have new characters, new actors every episode. Everyone was so welcoming and kind. Truly. Like you're stepping into someone else's home, and for everyone to be like, welcome, you're a part of us now. You're doing a great job, whatever you need. Like even the principal actors, Ramon Rodriguez and Iantha Richardson, they were so kind and took their time. Keith Powell, known most of all from 30 Rock, was the guest director of that episode, and he was fantastic. We had a nice chat about what it's like to be a guest director, because it's one thing to step in and play a role and leave, but he's stepping in to direct an entire episode of something that already exists. And I from what I know and what I don't know about what that takes, he managed that with aplomb. Um, and he made time for me, and I really appreciated that. I'm kind of nobody knows who I am walking onto this set. I'm just that guy for the day. And he sought me out and was like, what do you need? I'm here. I've got your back. I understand actors. And I felt really safe in all of their hands. And then third was just, getting to dive into some more complex emotions. Those are things you get to do a lot in theater, or you get to do in the safety of your home, where you do take after take after take. And then, the day you get the job, it's time for you to put all that practice to use. And it was really cool to experience what that felt like.
For you, it's also really nice to see kind of what you're capable of as an actor. You mentioned taking all these kind of skills that you've learned, in training and whatnot, and taking that to an actual set. And you mentioned working with Ramon Rodriguez and Iantha Richardson. So how was it sharing the screen opposite them in your scenes?
Humbling, at the very least. You have no idea what to expect when you go on set with anyone, you know? It's no different than stepping out of your front door and climbing aboard a bus. You're gonna interact with personalities of all types. And it was cool to see an actor at that chapter of their career of leading a show, and what their like a little glimpse into what their process might look like day to day. Um, and how important I appreciated that they acknowledged how important it was to be welcoming and kind to everyone, because I have to imagine in a leadership position like that, everyone's looking at you. You're the star of the show. You're the face on the poster. What are you like? What's the tone of the set like? And they were like, welcome. You're doing a fantastic job. Today we are peers. We're coworkers. This is our scene together. And that was the tone the entire time.
So we'll get into Descendants, the Rise of Red, and to all those watching, we are discussing spoilers, so please make sure you have finished the movie before continuing on in the interview. What was your familiarity and relationship with the Descendants franchise before you auditioned and were cast in this role?
Right. So, I've grown up all my life about an hour or less from Disney World. So, Disney is my world. Um, I had a vague familiarity with it, and my agent and I had a chuckle towards the beginning, where when they first mentioned Descendants. We were like, I loved that movie. Matthew Lillard, George Clooney. I think it takes place in Hawaii. Fantastic film. And then we were like, oh, wait. No, the other thing. Whoa, that's even more awesome. That's crazier. Um, and so the minute I knew what it was, I'm a big old researcher by trade as an actor. I love to collect as much data as I can. So the moment I found out what it was, I went and watched everything I could, all three movies, the cartoon Royal Wedding, all of it. I wanted to eat it all up.
What about these films and characters stood out to you?
You know, I love that Kenny Ortega and Disney and the Descendants franchise has found a really cool, approachable way to introduce the concept that everyone deserves love and understanding, second chances. Um, anybody who really loves getting into acting knows that villains don't see themselves as villains. They have really strong motives for what they do. And this is a really fun, palatable way to explore what makes the villains villains and like, oh, they're people too. Um, and the fact that they're able to do all of that and bust down some really dope dance moves and some really awesome songs that you would legitimately jam to in the car, can't beat it.
It's like that perfect recipe there. What can you share about your audition process?
Right. So, not too dissimilar from Mars's story. I got one line. I got one line, and I did it 8 to 10 different ways. And I didn't know it was We Should Burn Her to a Crisp. And I didn't know it was in the middle of a song number. Nothing said that in the side. And so, it's as a working actor, you get auditions all the time flowing. Well, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's nothing. But when they come in, you get the work, you do all your research, you read the breakdown, you do your audition, you do your best, you send it off, and forget about it. And it was the same deal. I was like, cool, Hades, God Hades, tickety tickety tack, do all my work, be like, great, here is what I would do if it were my role. Send it off. There was a singing portion and a dancing portion, sent all that off. Got a callback. That was really cool. I didn't expect that I would have the callback through Zoom with the director in the room, which was really cool. That doesn't always get to happen. And it was over the course of like a month. I got the only time in my life I think this ever happened. I got a personal phone call from the casting director, Lisa Mae Fincan, and she was like, "Listen, I'm never going to tell another actor, TV film actor this as long as I live, because I know in the camera everything's supposed to be small, but you got to be big and splashy. It's a musical number. You're right in the middle of the musical number." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Cool." Like ran home, made it juicier and splashier, and did it again. And then I got the call, like from beginning of audition to booking the roles. Like a month later, I got the call from my agent, Juliet, who believed in me and cares about my success very much. And so she was over the moon. She was like, "Do I have news for you?" And I was like, "That's amazing." She's like, "Do you know how amazing this is?" I was like, "I do. This is crazy." Um, and then I had like 3 weeks to a month before I had to drive to Georgia and do it all. So it was kind of a whirlwind. It started in November, and by like early December I booked it, and then by early January I was in Georgia doing it. So that's TV film. That's showbiz, baby.
And it's so nice that the casting director actually reached out to you because it must have meant that they kind of had pinpointed you, like they maybe wanted you for the role. They just wanted to kind of test and see that you could be a bit more like grander. It was that kind of like the case for what you had to read.
Absolutely, because when a project has so little information given to you at first, you don't have the full picture, and so it's my job to make a creative choice. And so like I was getting close, but Disney wanted to see like one more thing, and that's a thing that a lot of newer, younger actors find out through advice or through personal experience. Is like you shouldn't be intimidated by the casting director. Their job is to give you a job, and they want you to succeed. Um, And so it was never about like, oh, I gotta rise to what they expect of me. It was like they knew that of what I'm capable of. It's their job to see potential in every person they watch. And it was I consider that phone call just as much of a like a you can do it nudge as anything else.
It's nice to have that approach because like you mentioned, there can be maybe like a stigma going like, oh, they either like you or they don't like you right away, but they really just for you, you're thinking like they want to help you. They just want to help you get to that next level, which is nice to see. And you mentioned doing additional research into Hades. So can you tell me about what you discovered, like the lore of was it Hades, Hercules, the underworld, Greek myth that kind of gave you a better understanding of Hades' origin story?
All the above. You nailed a lot of it. I mean, I did grow up with the Hercules cartoon. It was a huge part of my upbringing. The Hercules cartoon, sure, I would pinpoint as coincidentally like the origin of my passion for like soulful style music, like R&B and gospel and jazz and all of that stuff. Um, and so it was fun to return to that and watch what James Woods did with the character because that, we take the Greek origins for the character, but then they took that and made the cartoon we know and love. And I feel like everything that Hades has become within the Disney realm sort of starts there. So that was back to the drawing board of um, his character affectations and his vocal affectations and his physical affectations and sort of if I had like a cork board, it was like James Woods and everything Cheyenne Jackson did that was hearkening to the 90s cartoon and whatever Cheyenne Jackson made his own and then a little bit of I like to throw a little bit of Laura Olympus in there just for diversity, honestly, like just to see everything that's the obvious that I can take from, and then step just a little bit outside of that out of curiosity. What can I find that maybe has been explored in other ways that I haven't yet considered? And then there's a little space left on that project for me that is me, and what do I want to do with all of that?
What specifically did you take from James and Cheyenne's portrayals that helped inform you?
Oh my goodness, where do I start? That's a I would liken Cheyenne's performance a little to um, a dog who's been caged for a little bit of a while. He had that like that lip curl, he had that growl. His legendary line of like, I used to be a god, I was a god. And being an older man who's had Mal as a daughter and lost Maleficent and was put on the Isle of the Lost, like all of that colors like where he's at now. And then, I got to sort of march backwards from that and go, okay, what kind of person would he have needed to be before all of that happened that would make him feel the way he does in Descendants 3? And then looking at the cartoon, all of the chummy, cheeky, snarky, almost wise guy tone. I even did a little deep digging for those like super fans who might know into what John Lithgow did with it before it was James Woods. Because the role was originally his and he recorded all the lines and then a year later they scrubbed it and went with James Woods instead. So um the We Could Burn Her to Crisp in the film when I snapped the thumb, that was like I went to Jennifer Pong, the director, on set that day, and I was like, hey, can we like do a little like wink back to the original cartoon when he like I think he lights a cigar with like a flame on his thumb, and I was like, I would love that. She was like, I love it, let's do it, and it's what made it into the film, and I was like, yeah. Um, and then leaning into Cheyenne Jackson's rockerness and his physicality and um, how he would hold the flame, all those little details.
How did you find your version of Hades with respect to his voice, his personality, and the physicality movement? Because, like you mentioned, you did want to take influences from like Cheyenne Jackson's version, but obviously dial it back to where more of a teenager Hades started out.
I was very lucky to have a lot of liberty on the choices I got to make with my characters. And I feel really fulfilled and humbled about that now because of how much made it into the film. There are a lot of little moments that people laugh and geek out about and love that I'm proud to say were like I did that and nobody was like, you should do this now. I just started messing around, like and that's what the creative process looks like. You try things until you find something that works. Um, and so for all of those little choices and asides and how would I feel in this situation, I got a lot of wiggle room in that, even in selection of the costume.
Are you able to share any specific moments aside from the finger snap?
Sure, let me think. Uh, the when Uliana's turning into a flamingo and I'm like sort of laughing at the whole situation, that was not scripted at all. Nor was Maleficent hitting me on the chest. Um,
That was so great when Hades was like, someone should help her, and then she gets slapped by Maleficent. It's nice to know. So that part wasn't in the script initially.
that entire scene, it was like, and Hades and Maleficent are also there. But that's what's so wonderful about that is there's a lot of freedom in that, If you're told exactly what you got to do, that's one job. But if it's like, hey, you're there and you're your character, go. You could do so much. And you don't know what's going to happen. Like, of course, maybe there's a little bit of like imposter syndrome in your head. That's like, when's somebody going to lean over with a script and be like, don't do that. But again, that's the creative process there. Everybody is encouraging, and as long as it's an informed choice and it's serving the story, um, it's your playground. Little things like how does Hades feel about rain, and water and wetness? How does he feel about like Morgie who does dog sounds and uh if he came from the underworld and what we know about that from the Hercules cartoon, how's that gonna affect how he feels about different environments he's in, like when he's out in the woods, or if he's in like the fish carcass, the let me rephrase that. I don't know if we're supposed to call it a fish carcass.
I think I've heard that before, so you're not the first person to to call it that. That's essentially what it was.
Evil lair that previously formerly known as fish.
AKA Black Lagoon, I guess, is also what it's kind of referred to. But it's nice to kind of have those little nuances and it helps you really kind of shape him at that point in time. So, were there any other details that you created yourself or discussed with Jennifer, the creative team, as to young Hades' backstory and upbringing? So elements that didn't make it to screen, but again helped you shape him in terms of, mentioning he comes from the fiery depths. That's kind of all we've gotten in terms of where he originates from.
Hmm. Well, I don't know how much I can reveal because I don't know how much we're going to explore that or not. I genuinely don't.
We do
Um,
want to say that this is a disclaimer. So, aside from anything that might be explored in the future, like we'll talk about specifically elements that you thought about for this first film, if you can share anything, even just briefly.
sure. Um, yeah, I would say I between Jennifer Pong, the director, and the wonderful Ria Pavia, who was our acting coach during the production, we got to explore. We take from pieces of inspiration for tone as well as what brings a god to school and what brings him to choose Maleficent of all people to be like, I like you and I'm attracted to you and I want to know more about you and I'll be close to you. And why would he find himself following around this gang of younger baddies? And so that definitely informed some choices. Of course, not every choice made it to screen, but it gave us a lot more to play with.
What are Hades' powers at this age?
I would say his powers are, in my imagination, I don't, uh, this is a conversation between Disney and I, then. In my imagination, we're seeing a sliver of it. If he's a god as he claims, because that's something we don't really know for sure in Rise of Red is where's he at in his god journey? Is he there yet? Is he already won? Um, was he already won and he decided to come be uh go to school? Or is he on his way? Is he only getting stronger? And how much value does he have to play that close to his chest? So I wanna sit on that one. I'm gonna leave it at that. Everything you see, but more.
It's really interesting because you think about, again, all this power that both he and Maleficent in the future movies kind of wield, and then kind of take it back to say, where are they at this point? And, in Descendants 3, he has his trademark, kind of the ember or the stone. So, kind of thinking about those origins. We'll talk about Hades and Maleficent in just a moment, but how did you see his relationship or friendship, like with those VKs you mentioned with Uliana, Hook, and Morgie?
I steal souls. So no matter what happens, I win. So I don't necessarily have to do the heavy lifting. Um, any bit of villainy that goes on is likely only a fraction of what world I come from and what I'm used to and what I'm looking for. So uh it's almost like a fun TV show, reality show for Hades, where it's like, all right, yeah, no, do your thing. Let's see what happens next. Um, and like, I love to like nudge. I love to get involved and be like, fire. Okay, cool. What are you gonna do with fire? Um, because I feel like it's the people who are trying to do good that are really putting in the hard work, you know? It is harder than a lot of people give credit for to take the high road and to be a good person to do the right thing. And so it's incredibly easy to be bad. You just got to sit back and let it happen, you know? Sometimes less is more.
And for Hades, I love how you phrase that, in terms of, maybe his intentions there. But for Hades, it's very pedestrian what's going on, very like kind of petty. And he's probably like, I could do so much, maybe I could do so much more where I'm from. But like you mentioned, taking the kind of sitting back, letting it play out and reaping the benefits. Do you think he bought into Uliana as his leader, or like were there kind of doubts and hesitations there? Why does he continue to follow her? Is it just for, the benefits of kind of what she puts into those kind of menacing plans or plots?
Leadership structure is certainly a funny, silly thing to consider in this group dynamic. Um, I like to imagine that's how a lot of people see it, and that's how my VKs within the group see it, but maybe not necessarily how I see it. Um, so, in these worldly events of this little sliver of our lives, like you see it as, who's in the lead and who's in charge. And I see it from an entirely different angle. Um, and I'm there to have a lot of fun, honestly. That's I think the most succinct answer for how Hades sees it in terms of like who's the leader or not. It's like, great question. Go on.
Tell me about his relationship with Maleficent. Like, did you consider the beginnings of their romance as teenagers, and kind of how that led into the creative decisions that you made on screen?
We definitely had several discussions about it. And by we, I mean Mars and I, as well as Ria Pavia and us during our rehearsals and improv sections, conversations over the script with Jen Pong. Um, I don't know how much I can reveal, but I can say I'm loving all of the fan theories. Um, I if I were able to take the time to respond to every fan theory, that would be my full-time job now because there are tons of them out there. And they've been really fun and exciting to see which people are maybe getting closer to what we imagined, and some people that suggest things that we never even, tripped upon.
Is there anything that you can share what you think attracted Hades to Maleficent in The Rise of Red?
I think it would be a shorter answer to name the things that like wouldn't attract him to her, which sounds like a bit of a cop-out answer, but it's true. Maleficent is the mistress of evil, you know. She also shoots power of her hands. She's incredible. I think she gets it. I think the closest to Hades' perspective on worldly versus underworldly things. I like the way she thinks, and I like her style. And she ruffles my feathers, and that's a hard thing to do to a god. And if anything, confidence and intrigue definitely play a part in attraction.
I spoke with Mars and they mentioned the kind of the physical touch was something like an element that was really played on, could kind of be a bit of a love language. It was really playful to see that on screen because a lot of times you were in the background, but that stuff really kind of came through when you saw them in the background and you could see that they were always like connected at some point.
Yeah, I like to imagine Hades is more of a softie than he likes to let on, and I think we are catching Hades in this chapter when he is head over heels. And as cool and bad and reserved and calculative he is, I think he's got it bad. I think he's got it real bad for Maleficent.
How was it having Mars as your character's love interest and getting to play off each other's beats?
Gosh, kind of harkening back to something we were talking about earlier. You can step on set with any personality and not know what you're going to get. And how lucky I consider myself to not only get the opportunity to be a part of this franchise, but that I get to do it side by side with someone who is so thorough and caring and curious and safe. And that is really cool and really fulfilling. I have a lot of respect for Mars as an actor. Since wrapping film, we keep in regular contact. They'll talk to me about self-tapes and actor choices and stuff, and it's so refreshing. It's not every realm where an actor really gets to dig into the nitty-gritty of the craft, and they have a massive passion for it and an immense well of talent to pull from. And that was incredibly rewarding. And also, with the romantic element, it's somebody you want to feel comfortable and safe with, and Mars is the real deal. Mars is the whole package.
Your first scene, all the VK's kind of first scene was the entrance during Life is Sweeter. So, what do you remember from filming that big group number and how you wanted to make Hades' introduction memorable?
I remember going through a lot of different iterations of like, oh, how would he introduce himself in this moment? I will never forget that set, I think, was the first set I stepped onto, both as it was being created and when it was finished and we were ready to shoot our very first thing. And that will always be imprinted on my brain. And that the way they gelled the set color wise to those like blues and purples and pinks, um, it to remember it is to like remember a very vivid but surreal dream. And I love that. I got to that the very first impression the audience gets to see of Hades and Maleficent is them being wholly into each other in the moment, regardless of what's going on around them. Um, and getting to back up the crew because Hook is on to doing very exciting things and Morgie's on to doing very exciting things and Uliana's got a lot of fire in her. So it's fun to watch that play out.
From my perspective, again, and we talked briefly about the scene earlier with the flamingos, like he didn't look too concerned about what was going on. So, in your eyes, what did Hades think and feel watching the situation unfold?
What are they gonna do next? I kind of see most of Hades' experience in this chapter of his life as like that gif of like who is it? I think it's Michael Jackson eating the popcorn, just like watching the movie, just being like, yay. Um yeah, ooh, there's a new element. I think he picks up on pretty quickly when Ruby is like, that's too many. And he's like, too many, do it. What's gonna happen? She'll be fine. I'm sure she'll be fine. She's gonna be great. Yeah. No, yeah, somebody should help her. But let's see where this goes.
It's like all hands off. He's just like, I'm just gonna sit here and watch it all play out. And I thought it was funny. In was it Life is Sweeter? He kind of wiped some water or something from his eyes because one of Uliana's tentacles caught him as well.
Yeah. Ew,
Not too
right?
pleased. Yeah.
From his perspective, he's like, like he sees, gross and scary stuff all the time, but like my hair is made of fire. So it's like, spraying a dog or a cat where it's like, stop, don't do that.
That could probably also factor into why he later is just like, I don't care. But take me through the VK's Perfect Revenge number. How was that choreography to learn and perform?
Dude, if I learned I learned a lot from shooting this film, but one is just how much responsibility falls on the shoulders of the choreographer and their communicative relationship with not only the director but the DP. And it was so cool to watch Ashley Wallen at work. I'm Ashley Wallen is a legend in his own right in his craft and his industry. And that's just not a world that I come from. And it was so clear to me why he was the person for the job because he was constantly working on it. Like he was so dedicated. I mean, he was either with us and detailing the fine tunes and making small changes and seeing how it works through a camera lens. And when he wasn't working with us, he was at the computer, he was communicating, he was plotting, he was shifting and evolving like as things change, because that's a film set, things are changing all the time. He's got so much spice and sass that he can bring to the table, and it fueled us as villains. He gave us everything we needed to shine in that scene, and we felt cool doing it in our street clothes in a dance studio. And then when it was game time and we had costumes on and we were at the Black Lagoon, oh, it was pretty sweet.
How would you say your skills as a dancer, mover improved from before the Rise of Red and then after you wrap the movie?
Boop, 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 boop. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have always loved to move and to dance. And I used to be actually a much bigger person when I was younger, and my body's gone through a lot of changes in my life, and that can sometimes inform and influence how you move your body, how comfortable you are in it. And it was awesome to get to not only dive fully back into some real fun, high quality choreography, but to grow in it, grow the muscles that it takes to do it and the instincts and all of the little moments that choreography doesn't inform, where you get to just come up with your own body language for moments. Getting to work on this with Ashley Wallen and Calvin Travante has made me all the better dancer for it. And some of the conversations I had with them, with Calvin especially, was quite refreshing, because you have conversations with other actors or with directors about on acting, but talking to dancers where they tell stories and find ways to express themselves in entirely different means really expands your mind, uh, which, name drop, harkens back to one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from Alan Rickman while he was still alive. I met him when I was like 19, and he had just come out of a Broadway show, and he was tired, and it was snowing, and everybody's yelling at him, Snape, Snape, Snape. And I asked him for advice, and he talked to me like I was the only person on the street. And he's like, "Are you going to theater school?" I was like, "Yes." He said, "Good. Then if I were you, I would go to the opera. I would watch dance. I would try dance. I would read the newspaper. I would watch the news. I would read books, see good theater, see bad theater, watch every movie you can get your hands on." He goes, take in every medium of art and the world around you, and all of those things will inform the beautiful, colorful, complex person that you are, and that will bleed into your character work. And as my career has moved forward, it's only become more true. And the same is with dancing on the movie.
Wow, to get that piece of advice is just kind of remarkable, from and such a talented actor, obviously. Gone too soon, but it's nice to hold that close to you. Going to the end of the movie, I know that Hades was hexed, but again, his thoughts watching their plans to take the Sorcerer's Cookbook be foiled by these new girls. What impact do you think this could have on his loyalties moving forward?
Wow, wow. How could it impact his loyalties? That's a great question. I guess the question you do walk away from that is, if Hades is having fun, if he's watching this interactive show, when does he choose to get involved? Does he choose to get involved? Um, I believe Professor Merlin says detention forever or for years. Yeah, oh, for years. Um, and we know what Hades looks like when he's trapped on the Isle of the Lost long enough and how frustrated that makes him. I can only imagine how frustrated you would put young Hades in detention for years and what that would make him look like on the other side.
Which was your favorite scene in the movie that you and Hades were not in, and why?
Oh, oh, I'm scanning through the movie. That's a tough question because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the movie. I gotta tell you, like, I know I'm biased because I'm in it, but I think it might be the best Descendants movie yet. Yet. So that's a tough call. Let me scan through the film. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh. Okay, I'm torn between two. I love the whole first scene where we get to meet King Charming and Cinderella. Huge fan of Brandy. I'm a huge fan of Paolo Montalban, and Malia Baker, and I love fight choreography and combat, like this the sword work, the R&B influences that Brandy got to throw riffs into the reprise of "So This Is Love." Um, there are just special moments in cinema like this that, regardless of genre, regardless of who it's made for, it floats you away. And every time I see that scene, I just kind of lose myself for a moment. So that might be my favorite. Um, and a close second would be um, Hands Dirty, the music number between Ella and Chloe. I love the message of that song. I love the song's a bop. The dance is super catchy. Um, it gets me emotional, like thinking about the stakes of that scene, that Chloe knows her mom is gone and has to go back to her younger mom before any of this has happened to try to understand, what do I do next? And that's really special. That's some Disney magic.
It's such a great message, that song overall, as you mentioned. And would you say then that is your favorite song in the movie?
Mm. Uh, I gotta tell you, I'm not great with favorite questions. Like, I'll always give you like top fives. I know there's bias here, but Perfect Revenge was I will never forget when I was sent the sample track to learn before we had to record, and I had it in my car, and I was like, "Oh!" My car was like, "Blah blah." I had to like turn it down, make sure nobody heard it. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Perfect Revenge might be my favorite song. It might be the perfect like before you go out on the town with your friends song. Um, and then from my musical theater background, um, Hands Dirty might be number one. Yeah, I would say like Perfect Revenge is like the hard hitting go out with your friends. Hands Dirty is the musical theater song. I love the much so much the duet. And so this is love um for the on a personal note, like the R&B taste on there.
It's like a song for every occasion. So there's something for everyone on the soundtrack. What did you enjoy about playing young Hades? And should you return in future Descendants projects, what would you be interested in exploring with this character?
This is a bit of a cliched answer, but it's a cliche for a reason with actors is like villains are so fun because their motives are so specific. Um, and I love what differentiation of energy he brought to the overall VK balance. Um, and should we get to see him again? Should he get to go to I can only imagine what it would look like if he and Maleficent got to go to Castle Coming, if we get to see that. So I would love to get to be in those boots on that special night. I would love to get to be in the room while we find out what really happened to Bridget back then. If that's something we get to explore. And as you were asking earlier about like what are the extent of his powers, if he marches around so much in Descendants 3 about how powerful he used to be, I want to wield that power.
I will say that my biggest kind of disappointment with the movie was that we didn't get to see Castle Coming because it was kind of like hyped up and then we didn't even get to see what happened. So I would mean I would love for them to explore what this looked like in the future. Do you know anything about the just announced Descendants and Zombies Worlds Collide tour? Because that was just revealed at D23 last weekend.
So cool. I am so excited for my co-stars. Can I tell you that? Um, I didn't know it was coming. Uh, and when I found out, I was like, what? That's going to be amazing. I don't think that's, as far as I know, that's not something that's been done before in Descendants history. I don't know about Zombies history, but to be able to get to see the stars and the characters you know and love from the film live on stage, that's mind-blowing. And I personally know what it's like to be in the room with the magic that is that are those actors, and now other people are going to get to experience that. It's going to be massive. It's going to be massive for the audiences, and it's going to be massive for them to get to go do this. Like I'm so excited to see what more they might explore in their characters and whatever extra time they get in those shoes. It's very cool. It's very exciting.
Would you take part if you were asked?
If I was asked, absolutely.
You're
100.
like, please have me as a special guest, even, or like, a regular cast member as well. But if not, I'm sure you'd love to make an appearance in Florida or in New York.
Hey, I love those people so much. I we got to spend a solid approximately 3 months together, and they will always be in my a part of my life for the rest of my life. And so if someone was like, "Hey, do you want to go hang out with them for a while doing the job you love?" It'd be a no-brainer.
Take me through creating Hades' signature look with hair, makeup, and wardrobe. How would you describe the look, and was it a collaborative process?
It was a collaborative process, more than I would have expected. Um, this is huge, and Hades is well established. I would have been honored to just walk in for them to go, "This is the costume. We'll make it fit to you." But I walked in, and I had a lot of creative liberty where they said, "He's you now. This is your look. What do you think?" And I was like, let's go to work. Let's look through what we've got. I was a big fan of the bling. I got to choose my rings. I got to choose. There were a lot of little tastes, little pieces. Like I've had a habit my whole life of pushing my sleeves up, and so I was like, hey, I want to push my sleeves up, and they're like done. There were these like cool bracelets that I liked them, but I wanted them to be bulkier. So I was like, what if we had like multiple of them and like twisted them around? Costuming department is like magic in their own right. They're like done. You're like, I wish for this, and they're like, there you go. Um, yeah, the earring jewelry and the pop of the collar. Um, it was a lot of fun. I tried on several different kinds of boots and pants and stuff until we found it. And they had a template, of course. Leonardo Nam has a really cool behind the scenes video on his social media now where you can see like the concept art, and Hades is like in there for like a millisecond, and you can see like what eventually came pretty close to what it is. But as for like the minutia, I was very excited to be part of that.
You mentioned working with such a talented cast. Tell me about that ensemble and how you bonded on and off set.
We gelled immediately, and you cannot expect that from every set you go to. You sign a contract, and there isn't an article of the contract that says like, and you must be best friends. Sometimes it's a job, and this was like summer camp. Uh, I believe Mars mentioned at one point or not one point, though, the whole experience we were living in a hotel together, and that was like, it was like dorm. It was like being in a dorm. Um, and because I lived closer than most of the other actors, I drove to set, and so there were a lot of nights that we got to pile into my car and zip around Georgia and explore and have dinners and fun nights out. And it really facilitated the process on camera being a click. And it wasn't exclusive just to the VKs either. It got to a point where, there were quite a number of the cast that were like honorary VK, honorary VK, honorary VK.
I love that video that I think Peter posted. He filmed it, and it's you and Grace who plays Faye, and then he's like, "Let's turn you back into normal people's clothes," and you're like, "Welcome to Chili's," and deadpan. So, like, what are the ideas behind these fun videos?
I attest a lot of that to Peter Lindell. He pretty early out of the gate was like, picture this, VK vlogs. And we were like, done, roll camera, let's do this. Um, and everything you're seeing, like little moments like that, are really just snippets of what the whole 3-month experience was like. Just a bunch of very cool, very funny, very talented people cooped up together for 3 months in Georgia, cracking jokes and going out to eat. Uh, yeah, I'm glad that we all had the foresight to take as much photos and videos as we did, because I want to look back on these memories forever.
I'm sure there's a lot more content to hopefully share and reveal as well to fans, should you all feel comfortable doing so. Tell me about the Disney family and what the support from the Descendants fandom has meant to you.
Wow. Yeah, that is something that is almost hard to put into words, because it meant so much already to people. And Disney knows how to care for their fans. Disney, as far as in my experience, listens to what they ask for and what they want, what they need, what they care about, and delivers. And um, this franchise means a lot of different things to different people. Some people find themselves in it. Some people find a connection to emotion. Some people are inspired by it. I've seen amazing artwork on social media now of people getting inspired and creating drawings and creating costumes and dolls and uh, in a word, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky to get to be a part of that. Like there are a number of people that just getting to be the Anthony Pyatt, the actor that plays Hades, to talk to somebody and be like, hey, I'm so glad you liked my movie, and I'm so glad that you do X, Y, and Z kind of art, and you should keep doing it. And I will have always wanted to inspire people to create their art and be their best selves. And the fact that getting to be a part of this franchise maybe has a bit more inspiration behind it for people. If that's my legacy, walking through this life, is that I get to be I've been given this power by Disney to inspire others to be their best selves and to practice and to try and to be their best selves. Like, um, I'll take it.
We'll go through some tweets now that people have kind of wrote on X. So if you're ready to read them, we'll start with number one.
Let's pull them up. Okay, I have to admit something to you. I don't think I've ever admitted this on any interview platform before. This is an exclusive to Permanent Rain Press. I have never in my life been on Twitter. Not for any particular reason, I think. It just never caught for me, which on X now, apologies. So whenever I open a Twitter link, it's like, do you want to join the app? Anthony, all these years later, do you want to join now? Perhaps it's time I should. I don't know
It's
if
like
enough.
probably a foreign platform for you. You're like, what is going on here? But
A
I
little
mean,
bit.
social media is its own kind of giant to tackle. So maybe it's best that you stick to like the platforms tried and trusted. Like maybe you're on Instagram, so
Yeah, I wasn't on any social media for a long time. When 2020 hit, I got off it entirely just to take care of myself and to make it through that year and whatever. And I've been acclimating more to using it as a tool in my career. And now with Descendants, it's all but necessary. And so this has been a ride. One of the craziest parts of my last like month and a half of my life is like getting to be a part of this craze right now. This is from Padawan Rory. Oh, Padawan Rory. And it's a photo of Hades and Maleficent. It says, where is the young Maleficent and Hades prequel movie? They would bring the Descendants pizzazz. Good question. I'll tell you what, Padawan Rory, if we are given that opportunity, I promise to bring some pizzazz for sure.
did
I love
you and Mars ever think about what that would look like?
all the time. Oh yeah. No, I think it would be an obvious statement and a lie to not say that, we really hope we get to do it again and we get to play together some more and explore that relationship. This is not a mystery to anyone for me to say, obviously, people are going like more, and we're like, yeah, let's do it. I'm game. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but I think it's Lysot Lily. It's Lysaght capital Lily, and it was the original casting photo that they put out of Hades. It says, anyone going to talk about how this man is 31 and playing teen Hades? Like, what skincare does he use? Hashtag Anthony Pyatt, hashtag Descendants the Rise of Red. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Skincare is important. And they have the correct age. There was some panic for a minute there where people were under the impression that I was 33. And I'm not going to go correct strangers and be like, I'm actually 31. Like it's not going to make a huge difference. This is I imagine this is a new concept to a lot of people watching this film, but it's definitely not a new concept to Hollywood. For those who are curious, IMDb got it way wrong, and they're being very difficult about letting me fix it. They don't believe that my birthday is my birthday. I'm like, but I'm me. Come on, man. Yeah, my birthday is July 6th. I think they got it like entirely wrong on IMDb. It's like June something, June 24th or something. But yeah, my birthday is July 6th for those who are interested. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people into the zodiac signs that are like, he's a Cancer. What does that mean? Um, yes, thank you very much for that compliment. Yeah, lotion and be mindful of all that hot water on your face. It feels really good, but it strips the oil from your skin. But yeah, I consider myself lucky. If you had told me 5, 10 years ago, like, oh, people are gonna think you look like really pretty and young at 31. I've been like, I didn't see that coming, but thank you very much. I will hold it with honor and make the most of it. This is from Papa Perk underscore underscore. That's PAPAPERC. I just want to know why a god is at that school hanging with human teenagers. Me too. Uh, yeah, there are quite a few fan theories about that, and if you get really into the deep lore, like Greek mythological lore about Hades, you could probably draw some conclusions as to why he might choose to do that. Um, but I mean, everybody's got to go to school somewhere. Um, and if we're going to elaborate any more on that, we're just going to have to elaborate more on that maybe another time. This is from at bitch from Kalos. Great handle. Great handle. That's Kalos, Kalos. It says Maleficent and Hades were kind of non-binary in D4. I don't know. That's really fascinating. We know from Disney lore that Hades presents as male and Maleficent presents as female. But in regard to the actors, like you're going to get whatever actors you get. That's one of the best things about Descendants is that we are a massively diverse cast where anyone can see themselves in it. And I think that's very important. And I do believe Disney is embracing that. And that's a beautiful step in the right direction. There's, obviously more we could always be doing. But I'm thankful for what representation we're getting now and whatever direction we're going towards. And for anyone, regardless of how they identify, if they can watch something that I get to be a part of and see themselves in it and see themselves represented, then, I imagine we're doing the right thing. This tweet is from at Trinity X Anthony. Do we think that's a coincidence or do they think is it me, Anthony? It's a 7-second video. Can't stop thinking about Hook, Uliana, and Hades voguing. Yes. Oh my gosh. The day we learned that dance for the first time, we flipped out. We were like, this is amazing. Yeah. And so they ate it up and I ate as much as I could, let's go. I was like, oh, this is my moment. I'm gonna do it. And I think Hades would too. Especially the way we know in Descendants 3 when he's like middle of conversation and he's like, hold please, and just like breaks out into a musical number. Of course he would be game for that. This tweet is from Pet Vamp Writes, writes with a W. Says, my favorite part of Rise of Red is definitely Uliana trying to figure out a prank, and Hades is just like, let's straight up murder her. And Snake Boy goes, I mean, I don't think I was the only villain, the only VK in that moment that suggested something that dramatic. But yeah, I mean, what are you gonna expect? What are you gonna do?
I think Hook said to make her walk the plank, right? And then Maleficent said prick her with 1,000 thorns. But it's just funny the way it came out. And then of course Morgie, who I feel like the running joke is like maybe he kind of goes along with, what else is going on. He didn't have his own idea there. He was just like, yes, let's burn her to a crisp.
We've all been that person at some point where it's like, I don't have a better idea than that. Let's do what he said. I get it. All right, this last tweet is from I think I don't know, I'm probably gonna pronounce this wrong, but it looks like Claw V3 Nus. It's CLAWV3NUS. Kaz says something about Rise of Red that I loved so dearly is how much Hook and Hades actors embodied parentheses emphasis on the bodied close parentheses Harry Hook and adult Hades. Like I genuinely felt like I was watching them as a team. They were perfect. Well, to be clear, Harry Hook, I believe, is Hook's son, and Hook in Rise of Red is young, actual Captain Hook. But I do agree. I think the casting is spot on. You look at them side by side, and you're like, that guy will grow up and have a son that is Harry Hook. And thank you very much for saying that, Kaz. Yeah, I've heard a lot of commentary on how they think the casting was nailed, and that would be all thanks to Lisa Mae Cannon and Jennifer Pong for seeing my audition tape and being like, "That's the guy." And then it was, it was an honor to take it and run.
Well, you all were fantastic in this movie, and I can't wait for the future. I'm hoping that there are multiple sequels, and of course, there's that tour to look forward to, summer 2025. Moving away now from Descendants, you've been vocal about your resilience in the arts and the industry, how to take care of oneself as an artist. If you're comfortable sharing, can you tell me a bit about that personal journey for you finding a healthy balance and peace of mind?
Absolutely. So, there are a lot of things we could cover on that question. It's a very important question, especially if you want to be an actor. I think it's very important to have a very specific relationship to this craft and this industry, because those are two very different things. You know, the craft is the art that we do, and then the industry is the business that the art lives inside of. So I think it's important to have things and people in your life that have nothing to do with this, because there are going to be days that this makes you feel like $1 million, where I get to be interviewed by the Permanent Rain Press on YouTube, and I'm reading tweets about how people are telling me I did a great job. And then there are other days where you audition, and you get nothing, or you hear no auditions or whatever, and um, it it's it makes sense for it to mean so much to you, for it to be a part of your identity, and to love doing it, and to want that to be what your life is about. Um, and at the same time, I think it's important to have other things that fulfill you and give you meaning, because um, in some ways it is a passion, and in other ways it is a job, and your job can only account for so much of your life. So I'm grateful for the friends I have. I'm grateful for all of my hobbies that will probably and have at some point, like fed it back into acting. But I can focus on. I have nothing to do with acting. I love to play the piano. I'm very bad at the slide trombone, but I'm practicing that. I'm a beatboxer. I have game nights with my friends. I love rock climbing. I gig music with my girlfriend, like all these things. Um, and the other thing I will touch on is I want to tell you a cool story about a night on Descendants that made me realize all of this, and that everything's going to be just fine. And it's that one day we were on set for like 12, 14 hours. It was a long shoot day. That's the reality of this starry life we lead, is long work days. And we all got out of costume and makeup and wigs and got back into the van to go back to the hotel. We're all very exhausted, and somebody in the front sang this amazing riff. It was during that riff challenge on TikTok that see, I'll be on my way. I think something like that, but it was a lot higher. And like somebody did it, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're so talented. And one after the other, like four other people on the bus did the riff in their own way, and they were all amazingly talented. And if maybe I was in a different head place in that part of my life, I would have gone, oh, I don't know that I belong here. These people are so talented. They're so good. What am I doing here? But the fact was, the job was mine, and I was in the van with them, and I did belong there as well. And it sort of makes you realize it's like the Avengers, like what a waste of gift it would be for Captain America to wish he was Thor, to wish he was Hulk, to wish he was Iron Man. They all have such special abilities, and they are all so different, and they are all part of the team doing their best job. And it made me immediately realize that a fact of life we know is that comparison can really ruin things. There's an old quote that says comparison is the thief of joy. And there's always going to be people that you think are, they have something you don't, and they're prettier, more money, or they know more people, or, they've been in the industry longer, they're booking more roles, what have you. And the fact of the matter is, despite all of that, no one's ever going to walk into the audition room and have your laugh and your passion and your opinions. And the for all the ways you might feel like a superhero for being able to sing or to act or whatever, like you're the biggest power you have, regardless of this acting thing, is being yourself. No, everyone else is taken, right? So um it gave me a lot of comfort that if you love this thing and it's a part of you, it will work out. Everybody gets a turn. It's always a matter of when, not if. And so all you really got to focus on is what makes you you, which sounds cheesy, but it's really the truth. And that has served me really well thus far.
That's so nice to hear. So again, thank you for sharing that. And you've been vocal about this topic on the past, like on your Instagram, and your kind of ideologies you said before, they're so introspective. You mentioned like remaining curious and cultivating yourself, and being able to have a brain dump when you need that as well, and recognizing that in yourself. We'll talk quickly about your musical duo with your girlfriend Allie, aka Honeymoon Duo. So she is a wonderful folk pop musician. And of course, you have the performing background. So when did you decide that you wanted to make music together? And what are your plans for the rest of the year?
Oh, goodness. Well, um, my girlfriend, as you said, she is an immensely talented businesswoman of a musician, and getting to step into her world and seeing how her industry works, I thought was very cool. And I was very lucky that she opened that door up to me where she's like, hey, I happen to think you're very talented. So if you want to jam with me, let's do that sometime. And so every time I play music with her, I get a little bit better. She has such a wealth of a background in it that I learn from her all the time. And so that's a lot of fun. It's just a good time, making music with the best people in your life that love you and want you to be better is nothing better than that. um as for the future, I am not legally allowed to tell you what it is, but I can tell you that I filmed a television show about couple weeks ago, and I'm very excited for it to come out. That'll be like my next project. And in the meantime, just keep on living, just keep practicing the things I love and hang out with my friends and auditioning and making the most out of this life. There's a manifestation I do every morning where I say I'm always looking to give back what I owe this life because it's a good life.
With Honeymoon Duo, are you going to be releasing any original music, or do you have any more gigs lined up with that?
Oh, gigs. Yeah, we have a few gigs here and there. As for releasing original music, we're in talks. We're in talks. I can say that much. I'm allowed to say that much.
And she is very busy though. I was looking at her schedule and she basically performs every day.
I know. You're telling me. Yeah, you don't work like that unless you truly love it. And she's phenomenal at it, and I'm so proud of her.
I have one more question for you, our signature question. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
Can I tell you how much I love this question? Ice cream is like my number one vice. If I could be any ice cream flavor, I would be I want to give you three variants of an answer. And if there's anyone who watches this interview that thinks one of them is more true than the other, they can comment and say what they think. I could see it going three different ways, and that's only because I am that guy that I go to the ice cream shop and I'm like, do you give out samples? How much time do we have in our hands? Can I try them all? um, I could see myself as like a Southern style blueberry cobbler ice cream that aims at my roots. It's a little bit, it's got some texture, it's got some complexity, it's got richness, but it's just simple enough, I think, that you're not confused about what you're getting. Um, there's another version of me, I think, that is some form of like, I forget the name of the ice cream, but the one that's like chocolate with like nuts and caramel and like brownie pieces, like something like that. Because I'm a little nutty, and and I've been known to get a little like soulful or rich from time to time on things. So I would be very honored if anybody thought that was actually the one. And then the other might be like a really good pistachio gelato. Yeah, like something that like tastes like this was pistachio nuts like yesterday, and now it's gelato.
Very thorough answer, but I think all decent kind of flavors and a great way to end things off. Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. It's lovely meeting you.
Yeah, you as well. And hopefully we can catch up again in the future. But until then, for all those watching, make sure to catch Anthony in Descendants, The Rise of Red, which is streaming now on Disney Plus, also out on Disney Channel. And we will see you next time.
See you next time.